Hey, everybody, and welcome tonight. I know it's late, but I really wanted to get this information to you today. So I appreciate those of you who are here and listening, and you're welcome to ask your questions. We're going to be talking all about the latest immigration ban on international F1 students. My name is Sophie Alcorn, and I'm a top 10 California immigration attorney. I'm the founder of Alcorn Immigration Law in Silicon Valley. I write for TechCrunch on immigration, and a lot is going on in the world. And so we're going to unpack this, and I am going to give you some tips that I hope you find are helpful, especially if you're an international student and you're thinking about what this means for you and your future today. We're going to be talking about how you can manage the situation with the new F1 announcement and what it means. So first, by way of background, international students are critical to the United States education ecosystem. There are some universities that have over 20% international students. So, for example, Carnegie Mellon, one of the top engineering schools in the world, has 22% international students. And there are several other universities with 20% international students or higher, including Boston University, NYU, and UC San Diego. So many prestigious universities have a lot of international students. This affects a ton of people. There might be more than 1 million, I think I read 1.2 million international students in the United States currently attending United States colleges and universities. So a big deal. It's also a really big deal in the context that some schools like Yale and Harvard had previously announced that they would be going online only for the fall semester and not offering any live in-person classes to to protect the health of the student body. So, there's a lot that I'm going to cover tonight. I was going to try to make a really quick video, but I have pages and pages of notes. So I'm going to try to cover as much as I can in as succinct as a way of possible so that it is useful to you, valuable to you. You find some creative ideas and solutions for what you can do in this situation. So, all right. So, first of all, why and what are we doing here? So, just so you know, I stand in solidarity with you on a personal level and also on just an economic, what is going on in our country level. According to the National Association of International Educators, international students contribute $41 billion and have supported over 450,000 jobs during the 2018-2019 academic year. So this is a really big deal. So as an international student, this means you are spending your money on tuition, you're paying rent, you're buying food and goods and services in the United States. All of this is a stimulus to the American economy. Plus, you are learning United States educational values as you pursue your education here. And if you've gotten this far, it means you've done it all legally. You've done it all properly. You have followed the rules, which are really hard to do because the rules are super complicated and the odds are stacked against you. So if it makes you feel any better, I see you. Okay, so, and I really, really hope that America will wake up to the value that you provide. But in the meantime, just know that there are underutilized immigration options that you can take advantage of to take your situation into your own hands if you are no longer to stay here as an international F1 student enrolled in classes in the fall semester. why am I doing this? I don't know. It's late at night here in California. I haven't had a break today. I have a law firm, but we actually don't get that much business from international students. We mostly help tech entrepreneurs. But this is really important to me. I love mentoring international students, supporting students. Everything you work on is so inspiring. You're pushing the boundaries of knowledge. And I want to support you. And I really believe that, this is not a zero-sum game in the world. And if we can support one person, that enriches everybody's lives. So that's where I'm coming from. Okay. And all day long, getting so many calls today, people have been freaking out. So if you're freaking out, don't worry, you're not alone. This decision is a big deal. I mean, basically it's saying that any students whose universities have gone fully online are no longer eligible to study in the United States in the fall semester, and that you'll have to leave or do something else. So we're going to talk about, do something else and what that means. And just like, I'm sure that all of the colleges and universities in the country, all of the academic officials, the designated school officers, positive that they care so much about you. And I know that they're probably inundated with international student requests, and they're doing their best to re-examine, what this announcement means for their programs for the fall. And I'm sure they'll tell all of their students as soon as they figure it out. But it really, I have a lot of empathy for the universities as well, because it puts them in this sort of like existential bind, right? Do they stick by their previous announcement of only offering online classes because that's what they determined would best support the health of their population, or when doing so would potentially get maybe 20% or more of their students kicked out of their homes in the United States? Or do they change everything around at the last minute, try to prepare the campuses for in-person learning so that you can qualify, and allow you to come back so you can stay in the States, but then risk your health because of the virus? So a lot of appreciation for everybody who is trying to sort through this situation right now. Okay. I do also want to mention that some amazing things have come out of all of this, we'll just say of the global pandemic. And one thing that I've seen that has supported many students around not only the United States, but also the globe in the last few weeks is a program for law students and pre-law students called Lawyer Up. Basically, all the legal interns got their summer internships canceled this summer, so they've banded together to create a super amazing grassroots mobilized peer education resource program. And they're learning so many things. I got to speak with the students, hang out with them. It's super inspiring, and it's way cooler than any legal internship I had in law school. So I know that if you're willing to think outside of the box, really amazing things can come from this, even if it doesn't seem so at first. Thank you for the question. I love your questions. Thank you. So the question is, can you expand more on the implication this new rule has on incoming students in the fall? So yes, perfect segue. Okay. So I got a lot of questions today, right? From people who want to know, what does this say? Do they have to leave? If they're outside, can they come in? People who are all but dissertation, people who are on OPT, who are on STEM OPT. So this rule plays out in a little bit of different ways, depending on wherever you specifically are in your international student education in the United States. So I would say that, if you need specific guidance, it's always a good idea to talk to an immigration attorney pay for a consultation, just talk to somebody. It doesn't have to be me or my law firm. There's tons of amazing, super caring immigration lawyers in the country who would love to support you, but just know that that's a resource you can go to in addition to your university's international student office. Everybody's affected in a different way, and the information I'm going to share, just consider it to be like general educational materials and not specific legal advice for any one person. Okay, so what actually happened is that SEVP, which is part of ICE, they do immigration enforcement, they announced today that they are instituting a temporary exemption regarding online courses for, they're modifying the exemption that is in place for the spring and summer terms, and they're limiting the exemption going forward into the future. So just baseline, international students have had to go to school in person. When coronavirus hit, they made an exception that allowed international students to continue. And now they're rolling that back, tightening things up. And if you don't follow the rules, they're threatening to deport you in our totally messed up deportation system, which is understaffed and backlogged and doesn't even function. So that's the bottom line. Okay, so procedurally, the way this works is they have to follow the law to change things like this. So there's the next step. The next step is that they are going to publish the procedures and responsibilities of students and universities in something called the Federal Register, which is where our regulations get published as a temporary final rule. So remember, United States, we have a constitution, we have due process. So whenever the government is proposing a rule change, that means that the way they do that has to follow the law. And it means that lawyers always have the chance to sue them in court and stop the thing from being implemented. So I don't know if people will sue. I don't yet have an action center where I can, receive nonprofit donations and undertake such initiatives, maybe in the future. But just know that there could be litigation. A judge could issue a temporary restraining order, and this whole announcement could be canceled by that, theoretically. So there could be more changes in the future. So what the rule actually says, to the extent I've been able to read the announcements and pull things together from official government websites. First of all, the biggie is that if you're a non-immigrant student in F1 status or M1 status, and you are attending a school that is operating entirely online, you are not able to maintain your F1 status in the United States if you are taking a full online course load. Which means if you're taking a full online course load, you have to leave, okay? So now the next thing that this official guidance says is that the US State Department, which gives everybody their F1 visas in their passports, they are not allowed to issue any visas to any students who are enrolled in educational programs that are fully online in the fall semester. So if you are outside trying to get into a program that's fully online, not going to happen under this new rule. Also, if you already have an F1 visa or an M1 visa in your passport and you're currently outside of the United States and you wanted to come back in on an I-20 to continue classes and take a full online course load in the fall, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the people at the borders and the airports, they are not allowed to let you in to do that. So then it goes on to say that if you are here and you're an active student you're in the United States and you're currently enrolled in such a program, you either have to leave the country or you need to take other measures to be able to stay here, such as you can transfer to another school with in-person instruction so that you can stay here in status, in lawful status. And if you don't do this, they say, you may face immigration consequences, such as the initiation of removal proceedings. So removal means deportation, in case you didn't know that. All right, so then it goes on to say that non-immigrant F1 students attending schools operating under normal in-person classes are bound by existing federal regulations, and eligible F1 students may take a maximum of 1 class or 3 credit hours online. So if you're going to a normal in-person school for an F1 status, you can take up to 1 class or 3 credit hours online. Some schools have something called a hybrid model, which is a mixture of online and in-person classes. So if you are in that situation, you may be allowed to take more than 1 class online pursuant to this hybrid model. If you are here on an English language training program as an F1 student, or an M1 student pursuing a vocational program, you are not permitted to enroll in any online courses, okay? And non-immigrant students within the US are not permitted to take a full course of study through online classes. So if you are in that situation, like if the school you're in is like, hey, we're only going to do online and you're on F1, you got to figure something else out. The government suggests taking a reduced course load or enrolling in appropriate medical leave. So those are some government suggestions, and I have some additional creative suggestions for you that I've been brainstorming this afternoon based on my business immigration and family immigration experience. So by August 4th, all the schools, it's like really soon, it's like a month. The schools basically have a month to reissue all the I-20 forms to all the F1 international students. So they're going to be busy. So if you don't hear from them, it's probably why. So, okay, so that's, you asked, like, what does the rule say? That's basically as much as we know from the ICE website and from the announcement to all of the universities that was published today. Okay, so here, okay, then there's another thing that I teased out of this morass of, I don't even know. It's not like a real rule yet, this like warning thing. This is important, OPT and STEM OPT. So here's the only guidance we have, and I'll read it verbatim and then I'll explain what I think it means. It says, for the fall 2020 semester, continuing F&M students who are already in the United States may remain in active status in SEVS if they make normal progress in a program of study. So that's what we were just talking about with like the online course load being restricted, or are engaged in approved practical training, either as part of a program of study or following completion of a program of study. So that's OPT and STEM OPT. And the whole thing is super vague. That was like the one sentence that I could find that talks about that. What I think it means is as long as you're here in the States and you have your work permit EAD for OPT or STEM OPT, you're good to go. You can keep working and you don't have to leave. Remember, this is like a YouTube video that I'm recording late at night, same day. So this is subject to change. And you always want to keep in touch with your employer and your school and pay attention to the news to see if there's any other guidance on that. But let's just say my initial reaction reading it is that you guys should be fine. And if I, learn of anything to the contrary, I would certainly share that. Okay, so talk to your designated school officers and the international program offices at your universities. I support, and our firm supports a lot of Stanford students, and we always just, especially, with any university, want to make it very clear that the DSO is the official who runs the SEVP records, the online database. They issue the I-20s, the DS 2019s. Like, they are your go-to. They are the gatekeeper for F1 and J1 status, M1 status. So always talk to them. And they're probably going to know way more about OPT than any immigration lawyer, private attorney that you will end up getting a consultation with. So talk to them first. And then I want to share with you, in the meantime, I realize there's probably a lot of ways that I can support you with creative ideas that you're probably not going to find in other outlets, because I don't know why. But anyway, I like to think creatively about what you can do. So I wanted to share that with you tonight. Okay. So, so here we are. And there's actually a lot of options. First of all, let's just be real. If this isn't working out for you anymore in the United States, it's okay to leave. Like, that does not mean you're giving up. But if you can go to another place that's more supportive of your education, maybe with a nice president and with a lower rate of coronavirus, maybe that's a good thing. But if there's a reason for you to stay and continue, and there's something that you want to create in your life or in the world, let's brainstorm creative, non-traditional ways to make that happen using all of the tools of immigration law. Because that's the one thing the repeated reaction I get whenever I speak to international students. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that there were choices. And there's always choices. Okay. So, got my notes here because I was busily writing down a list for all you guys. Okay. Idea number one. If you can, the simplest, easiest thing is just stay at your school and make sure you take enough in-person classes to qualify, get a new I-20, and then you're fine and you can keep going with your education. Okay, school doesn't offer that. Idea number two is you can transfer out. You can transfer to another university that has a qualifying program. The one caveat here is you just need to be extremely careful about what school you are enrolling in. In the last couple years, ICE created a fake school that did not meet the legal requirements to offer F1 status. Students enrolled, and then they kicked all of those students out of the country because they started an investigation and they accused all of those students of breaking the law by getting duped by the fake marketing to enroll in a fake school that was set up to trap them. So just make sure whatever school you enroll in, you read the requirements and you are very sure that this program is legit and meets of the real requirements. So, number 3. If you've already met the degree requirements to graduate, and you were planning on sticking around for an extra quarter or semester to ride out coronavirus, talk to your school. Maybe you could graduate at the end of summer and file your OPT to be able to stay here and work. That's another option. And remember, with OPT, you're allowed to volunteer and you're allowed to start your own company. Okay, but if you want more drastic measures, there are more drastic measures. So number 4 is you can adjust your status to a green card from F1. This is more risky. You definitely need an immigration lawyer to do this. It's always best to maintain your immigration status in parallel with a green card until your green card is approved, which could be a 1 to 2 year process. But know that this is an option. A lot of times when people think of this, they just assume that they have to get married in order to do this. So I would just give a huge fat caveat here that this only works for good faith marriages. Please do not do anything other than a good faith marriage. You've, come so far. Don't throw it all away on something that isn't legit. If marriage isn't in the cards for you, that's okay. There are several types of green cards that you can get by yourself without a company sponsoring you based on your own achievements. So this is probably more suitable for people with some prior work experience or advanced degrees. But the 2 big immigration types to consider are an EB-1A for extraordinary ability or an EB-2 national interest waiver green card. Both of those you can self-petition for. Depending on your country of birth, it might be possible to file an I-485 adjustment of status application concurrently, assuming your priority date in the visa bulletin is current. There's a lot of articles on that online, and a lot of immigration lawyers can explain that to you as well. Now, more creative short-term options are changing your status to another non-immigrant status. Let's say you can't find a qualifying school to enroll in, but like one woman who reached out today, her country is not permitting people to return, and she has to go on a special wait list with the embassy and hope that she gets selected to go on a flight. And then there's only a few flights and they have exorbitant airfare, so she can't even leave. So in that situation, it might be best to consider another type of non-immigrant visa other than F1 that would allow you to either visit or potentially even work in the United States. So if you already are towards the end of a PhD program, or maybe you're in a postdoc, or maybe you have a master's degree, definitely consider an O1 visa, which is for a job, and you have to have extraordinary ability based on your past accomplishments. And I have a lot on my website about what it takes for that. And we're also creating a extraordinary ability boot camp course this summer, so that if you don't have that level of qualifications yet, you can enroll and learn how to legitimately create that track record of success so that you can qualify in the future based on your portfolio of accomplishments. If you already have a bachelor's degree but you're not extraordinary, and you don't have time to enroll in that class, look at other professional working visas. So if you already have a bachelor's degree or some work experience plus some coursework, and you're from Canada or Mexico, you could get a job and apply for a TN. If you're from Chile or Singapore, there's the H-1B1. If you're Australian, there's the E3. If you can get a job, we could do a change of status from F1 to one of these and, talk to your school. But I think in most cases, the school will let you continue towards your degree while you're working. Maybe it'll slow down your studies, but it would be a way to stay in the United States and make money while you're finishing your degree. If you don't have a bachelor's degree yet, there are some visas that don't require bachelor's degrees. You can start a company. The E1 visa is for people in companies that primarily are trading between the US and your home country. And the E2 is an investor visa that allows people from certain countries to start companies and to work at these companies. India and China do not count. For other countries, you need to look up on the State Department website if your country has the required treaty to be able to use an E1 or E2 visa. So check it out, but you don't have to have a bachelor's degree. You just have to have some explanation of why you would be a good entrepreneur, and you need the money to start a company. But you've made it this far, maybe you have ways to do that. So then I was brainstorming, okay, if you don't have any money to start your company, what could you do if you want to get an E1 or an E2? One idea is to, if you're in the startup world, because we're here in Silicon Valley, you could get, if there's an investor who's investing into the company, they could write an advisory opinion about the value of your intellectual property, and your IP could be your investment. Or you could potentially do some sort of like crowdfunding campaign where you get gifts from people on the internet. You pay taxes on them. You can show that this is legitimately your personal money, and then you invest it into starting a company and have that be your startup capital. Okay, now another really out of the box idea I had is that students can use this to support each other. Just because people say that jobs are really hard to find doesn't mean that it's really hard to create jobs. So if you see a need, consider starting a company. Even if you can't work there and you're not work authorized, if anybody anywhere in the world, regardless of their immigration status, can own a company in the United States, you have to be careful about whether you can work there or not. But if you start a company, you could hire a fellow recent graduate on OPT or STEM OPT to work there if you can ensure adequate supervision and advisors to help them further in their academic career. So, imagine if students if 5 to 10 students at every university each created a new company, we would have hundreds of enterprises in the country, and that would be tons of jobs. So there's other ways to look at all of this, and being here in Silicon Valley, everybody says that bachelor's degrees are overrated. I was in the Stanford graduation when Steve Jobs gave the really inspiring graduation speech, and it was before iPhones. And I remember thinking, why is somebody who didn't graduate from college giving our graduation speech? But appreciate a lot of his genius now. And like, you could even take this further, and all of the international student owned businesses where, nobody without permission, only people with permission would be working there. But like, all of these businesses could support each other and provide services to each other. And that could be a whole ecosystem. And it doesn't have to be limited to the United States. It could be international as well. And it could create jobs everywhere. So don't let these rules hold you back from your dreams. There's always a way to figure it out. Okay. And then, my biggest hope with all of this is just that we can raise awareness about how messed up the F1 immigration scheme is. Most fundamentally because the whole premise of this antiquated system is based on the idea that international students have non-immigrant intent, which, I do believe that students sincerely say this at their F1 visa interviews. But more often than not, I see consular officers using land, property, money as a basis for determining whether the international student is going to go back to their home country or not at the end of their program. So even if the student got a scholarship, but they don't have, a flat in Mumbai or something, maybe they would be denied a visa because they could never prove their ties to return to their home country. I mean, it basically means that only rich students are able to come here because they're the ones that can prove that they would go home because they have something good to return to. And then the students who don't have something good to return to aren't allowed to get the visas to come here. So the whole thing is messed up even from that early stage. And then, like international students often pay full tuition and would love to have jobs in the United States and create jobs and create companies. And so it just seems really, I hope all of this sheds a light on how silly it is that like one of the fundamental premises of this visa type is that you're going to get educated and then leave. It seems pretty backwards, and other countries do a much better job of like, oh, you paid full tuition and came to our country and learned our values and our education, and you want to contribute to our economy, welcome, have a permanent residence. So I really hope that at least something like that can come out of this. And I also just hope that, wherever you are, even though this is a hard day with confusing news that might change your life, hopefully at a bare minimum, it allows you to realize what's important to you and what you want. And then you can go, into alignment with that and find creative ways to make it happen in your life. And, I said this before, but if you can find a place with nicer people, like, please, go there, live a happy life. But like, if America has the right ingredients for you at this point in your journey to make your dreams happen, whatever they are, I really hope that you don't let all of this squawking and fear mongering scare you, because there's a lot of ways to do it if you educate yourself, talk to the right people, avail yourself of opportunities. And I know from my own personal experience of being on the outside of things and wishing and hoping for a way in, that when I can get out of fear mode and line up with something creative or supporting others or positive, then that's when amazing possibilities can start to open up. So that was way longer than like a 3-minute feel-good video saying I support you, but there's a lot of information. I really wanted to get it out there, and I'm so grateful for those of you who have been staying with me and listening this time. Oh, I see another question. Thank you for asking. I'm happy to answer it. So you wrote, I was an international student. I got into Y Combinator after college, and it has opened many doors for me and my team. Oh my God, you're amazing, David Vargas. If any international student is looking for internships or a position, reach out. That's like the best thing I've heard all day. You're amazing, and I am completely covered in goosebumps. Thank you, David. Thank you. And thank you so much for your support. I mean, Y Combinator is an amazing program. It's opened the doors to the United States and so much opportunity and inspiration for so many people around the world. And I love that spirit of curiosity and creativity that it fosters. And this is exactly the type of thing that I'm talking about. Like, you have a company, you need help, you need great minds. There are so many opportunities like that. So I hope that all international students and everybody watching this video bands together to find ways to support each other like that. So with that, I'm exhausted. I'm gonna go to bed now, but I will keep posting. I'm gonna update my TechCrunch column for tomorrow with a few bits of advice and education on this topic. And if you have questions or need support, you're always welcome to contact us at Alcorn Immigration Law. And I want to thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that international students do for America and do for the world. And I hope you continue finding ways to live your dreams. Thank you and have a great night. Bye.